So next up, it's my pleasure to introduce Geoff Notkin, who is the host of Science Channel's award-winning Meteorite Men, and has actually found space rocks on 4 continents. So he's going to bring his expertise and enthusiasm to everyone here in the audience for Asteroid Day.
Thank you. Good morning. How's our audio? We're going to just switch my, we're good, thank you. Geez, talk about a tough act to follow, really, Brian May and Rusty Schweikart. Yes, Rusty is one of the co-founders of the B612 Foundation and one of my favorite astronauts, and did you know that he was the first human ever to fly the lunar module in space? It doesn't get much cooler than that. So, Asteroid Day, you made it. Welcome, congratulations. This is very exciting to be part of a worldwide event, and I'm honored to be invited to entertain you for a few minutes. I travel the world looking for space rocks, that's why I'm dressed like this. You know, you go to talks and often the host is wearing a very impressive suit and all that, and I thought you'd probably rather see me in my field gear. I write science books, I'm a television host and producer, and like many in the audience, I dreamed of being an astronaut when I was a kid. We have actually several astronauts here now, and my dream kind of came true because I get to hang out with astronauts in my daily work, and Buzz Aldrin gave me this t-shirt. Pretty cool, right? Thanks, Buzz. I'm wearing this in honor of you today. So, I don't want this to be just any old science talk. I want to have some fun, and unlike your teachers and some of your colleagues, I encourage tweeting and messaging and having fun with your smartphones. So we're going to have a little contest today. I'm going to give away something rather interesting, and here are the rules. The most important part is you must hashtag Asteroid Day because we're raising awareness for this amazing and important event. Please make sure you tag me so we get it. And what is this? Whoops, I went too quickly. What is this? What was Rusty just talking about? Very good. That's not the contest, but well done. So, I have here in my pocket an actual piece of the Chelyabinsk meteorite, which I acquired from my colleagues at the Russian Academy of Sciences. It is definitely the real thing. And so the best tweet made by someone in the audience during my talk will take this home with them as a memento of the day. So remember, you must be present, and you got to hashtag Asteroid Day. The purpose of this is to let the world know what we're doing. Let's see if we can get Asteroid Day trending on Twitter. I think that would be quite an achievement. Where do meteorites come from? Excellent. Someone usually says outer space, and we already know that. The majority of meteorites come from the asteroid belt, and it's kind of like driving around Union Square at rush hour up there in the asteroid belt. There are things crashing into each other all the time. And what is this thing here, this blue thing? Yes, in the green shirt, what is it? Yeah, you're wearing a green shirt. It's very sharp. It's our atmosphere. Why do we care about the atmosphere? It's important for 2 reasons. The first is, we'd asphyxiate without it, and I wouldn't be able to do this talk. And the second thing is that our planet would look like this. The atmosphere causes many meteorites to burn up during their brief fiery journey through it, and as such, the atmosphere protects us from falling space debris, except for the largest ones. What do you think happens when meteorites land on our planet? Any suggestions? You're a very quiet audience. You know, I do encourage audience participation. Yes?
They're buried by the force.
That's true. But you might be surprised to know that most frequently, they don't do very much at all. You see the meteorite there? Here's a close-up. Most meteorites that land on our planet are that size or smaller, and they fall all the time, and we're just unaware of it. They fall in the oceans or in forests. This is one that I found on the amazing Nullarbor Plain in Australia. It's called Mundrabilla, and it's about 2 pounds, and it had been lying there where it fell on a limestone plateau for hundreds of thousands of years. So most meteorites actually don't make craters. It's quite unusual for craters to occur in terms of our lifespan. Now, here I am standing in an impact pit in the Atacama Desert in Chile. That was made by a meteorite that weighs about 400 pounds. So even something of that size, I've actually seen the meteorite. It's in the Natural History Museum in London. It's about this big. Doesn't make a crater. It's called an impact pit. This is the smallest real crater that I have visited. And it's one of 15 craters at the Henbury National Reserve in the Northern Territories in Australia. And I don't know why, but whenever I get into a crater, I seem to do this. I'm just very excited to be there. This is the spot where it happened. This is the point where impact occurred. And when an iron meteorite slams into the Earth, it typically explodes, and we find twisted shard-like fragments around the craters. And that is a piece from one of the Henbury craters in Australia. Whitecourt in northern Alberta, Canada, is only 1,100 years old, extremely well preserved, and that is, of course, very young in geologic terms. It was discovered by amateurs who took metal detectors around the rim and started finding fragments which they took to the university, and my colleague there said, "Oh my gosh, you're the 1 in a million person who actually discovered a new meteorite crater." That's my co-host, Steve, from Meteorite Men. He's a complete lunatic, and there are the two of us standing at the bottom of the crater, and this is what we do. As you can see, I'm 8 years old, and he's 7. So I'm the mature one. It was very difficult to get out to that site, and the only way in and out is by ATV. And you can see my very brave crew from Meteorite Men, who really went through every kind of imaginable hardship to make the show. And if you think it's hard to find meteorites, you should try being one of the guys that makes the show about how hard it is to find meteorites. That is a challenging job. But it's worth it. Meteorites are my passion. This is Happy Geoff when he finds one. And we did a very involved study with the University of Alberta in Edmonton, where we mapped the position of every single found fragment at the Whitecourt crater, also the depth at which it was buried, its orientation, and the type of soil even that it was found in, thus giving us one of the most detailed maps ever produced of the distribution of meteorite fragments following an impact. Ah, the Monterey Key Crater. Do you get that the craters are getting bigger in every slide? You get that? Monterey. The Monterey Key Crater in northern Chile in the Atacama Desert is about 100,000 years old, and it's one of my personal favorites because I got to camp there overnight, and it was 8 degrees Fahrenheit. So anyone who's good at math, that's 24 degrees below freezing. The things I will go through to sleep in a crater. Who knows what this is? I know my friend Jim does back there. Very good. Meteor Crater in Arizona. I'd like to give a shout out to Meteor Crater because they are doing their own Asteroid Day event there in celebration, and I've had the privilege of filming there. Cheers. Right on, that's for you, Meteor Crater. The staff and admin there have been wonderful to me and have allowed me to film at the crater 3 separate educational programs. I was also one of the very few people who was allowed to go down onto the crater floor. And if there are any Doctor Who fans here in the audience, you will appreciate the irony of it. Because when I got down there, I said, wow, it actually seems smaller on the inside. It's Doctor Who in reverse, you get it? In southern Germany is a massive crater called Ries. And it's millions of years old. And there is a beautiful walled town, that sits in the middle of this crater. And I had the pleasure of visiting there a couple of years ago. When a meteorite of sufficient size to do serious damage hits the Earth in the manner Rusty so ably described in the previous talk, the target rock is melted and fractured and fragmented into what we call impact breccia. So all of this rock here has been smashed to bits and melted by the fury of an enormous impact from a piece of an asteroid. Now, there's so much of this impact breccia that the church in the middle of town is built from it. And this was first recognized by the great geologist and impact specialist Gene Shoemaker, who trained some of the NASA astronauts. I don't know if Rusty worked with him. I'll have to ask you about that. So I never met Gene, unfortunately, but I know his wife, Carolyn, and she guested on Meteorite Men. And she related an amazing story to me that they were on holiday in this beautiful little town in Germany, and Gene is standing there looking at the church in wonder. And he says to Carolyn, "I think this is impact breccia." And he determined that it was, so he was the first person to identify this crater. And I'm sure this didn't really happen, but in my mind, the great Gene Shoemaker is standing there with his rock hammer, chipping little pieces off a church, which is not a good idea in Germany, because they take very good care of their historic monuments. So, because I'm a maniac, I climbed to the top of that church. And let me tell you, in a life of adventure, it is the scariest thing I've ever done. The stairs that go up to that tower look like an M.C. Escher drawing. And they go on, and some of them are suspended from the ceiling, and I get vertigo a little bit, so it's lucky I didn't end up becoming an astronaut. But the view from the top is spectacular. Sorry, this is skipping a little bit. The view from the top is spectacular. So here's the town, this is the walled town. You see this blue line here? That's the rim of the crater. That's the size that we're talking about. And the town is believed to be just about the size of the asteroid fragment that made that crater millions of years ago. So I get to the top of the tower, and I'm super excited, and I texted one of my friends, and I go, "Oh my God, I'm in the Reese crater, and I'm at the top of the church, and the entire church is made out of impact breccia. It's just the most amazing thing that ever happened." And my friend texts back and says, "Nerd." And the best part of this story is, the name of the town is Nördlingen. True story. Nördlingen, the town of nerds. The largest crater I've ever visited is Popigai on the Taimyr Peninsula in northern Siberia. And the only way in and out is by ex-Russian military Mi-8 helicopters. And let me tell you, that was the second most terrifying thing in my life, because those things are held together with duct tape and chewing gum. The Popigai crater is about 35 million years old, 100 kilometers in diameter, which means you could fit the country of Luxembourg into it 4 times. This is the size, the scale of damage that we're talking about that asteroids can inflict on our fragile little planet. You see all of this stuff here? That's all melt rock. That was melted at the moment of impact. And this crater is so enormous, it's got its own river that flows through it. So I actually got to sail on a raft down a Siberian river through a meteorite crater, and that does not happen every day. Well, if they get any bigger than that, this is where we are. When a major meteorite impact occurs, the heat and fury that are generated are so intense that target rock is melted into glass. And this is a moldavite. It's an impact glass from the Reese crater, where Nördlingen is, that I was just speaking about. So this is why we want to raise global awareness about the danger of asteroid impacts, so that we don't all turn into glass and ash. What do meteorites look like? While I'm thinking of it, I have one with me, and I'd like the audience to know that I'm not your typical television prima donna. I love to talk to people about my work. If you want to come up and say hello and hold a meteorite after the talk or during the break, please do. I'm very friendly, especially at space-related events. Iron meteorites were once part of the molten core of a large asteroid. The most abundant types that we recover are stones that were largely part of the crust of an asteroid. And the rarest of the main groups, the stony irons, are a mixture of both. So 50% nickel iron and 50% silicate materials, and in this case, the silicate material is olivine, which is the gemstone peridot, So you're actually looking at gems from outer space, or jewels might be more appropriate. This tells us that asteroids are active. Not all of them, but some of them. You have to have molten cores and differentiation change activity on the asteroids in order for this type of material to form. This is why we learn so much about asteroids from meteorites. They are little fragments that come to us and allow us to study our neighbors in the solar system. So for 3 years, I did a little show called Meteorite Men. We traveled 120,000 miles around the world, 4 continents, 11 countries, in search of these asteroid fragments. And we had many silly adventures. That's me driving, by the way. Top Gear is my favorite television show, can you tell? That was definitely a highlight for me. That's what happened a lot. We're very silly guys, and we had the pleasure of playing with all kinds of unusual equipment. When production said to me, Geoff, you can have anything that you want within reason to make the television show. What did I say? Amphibious vehicle. Right? I grew up watching Thunderbirds and Man from U.N.C.L.E., so if you have the opportunity, you might as well go with it. So as you can see, we take our work very seriously. There's no fooling around when you're hunting for meteorites. We travel to some very remote places. Deserts are good places to find meteorites because there are no plants and there are very few regular rocks. And since meteorites contain iron, they will last longer in the desert, making them statistically easier to find. Since they are rich in iron for the most part, we use metal detectors, and persistence pays off. A lot of patience required sometimes. And of course, the executives at our network said, we like it when you find the really big meteorites. And we said, yes, we like that too, because this is how we make our living. So we constructed, to the specifications of my mad scientist colleague, what we believe to be the world's largest metal detector, made entirely out of PVC and duct tape, just like that Russian helicopter. Because if you're searching for iron with a metal detector, the device that you're using can't contain any iron, or it'll go off all the time. Presented a design and construction challenge. But it pays off, because the larger your metal detector, the deeper it can see. We found, oh, it keeps skipping, pardon me. We found this in the Arctic Circle. It weighs about 70 pounds, and it had been moved and buried by a glacier during the last ice age. So our planet has a long and intense history with meteorites. This is the largest one that we found on the show, 273 pounds, buried itself about 5 feet into a field in Kansas. Imagine what would happen if that hit your house. Actually, your house would be worth a fortune. Some crazy meteorite collector or museum would want to buy your house and leave it exactly as is. It was a palisite. So the slide that I showed you with the gemstones. So if you were to cut that meteorite open, you would see it studded with gemstones. This is actually my favorite of all my finds. This was discovered near the Dugway testing ground when we were filming Meteorite Men. It's a 2,000-pound unexploded Vietnam-era bomb. We reported it to the Air Force, and they said it was so dangerous they blew it up in situ. They didn't even try moving it, and they said to me, it's lucky you guys didn't go near it. After Meteorite Men, I spent 2 years doing STEM Journals, which is a multidisciplinary science show. And I was one of the executive producers on that show, which is nice because people actually listen to you and you can sometimes get things done that you want. We did a very diverse range of episodes, including biomechanics, action sports. The show won 2 Emmys, and I'm very proud of my crew for going above and beyond and making educational television recognized, because educational programs don't usually get Emmys. So that was a win for science and education. Come along, slideshow. We did an episode on robotics, and I'll just give you a little bit of advice. Any of you youngsters who are maybe considering going into a career in television or film, do not trust your director. They will trick you, and they will put your life in danger if it will make a better show. My wonderful director, David Rout, asked me privately if I had a phobia, and I said, yeah, it's bees. So he wrote a bee episode, especially for me. And I had to walk through 35 active hives. And where I live, in Tucson, Arizona, the bees are not friendly. We have a very aggressive kind of bee there you might have heard of. How are we doing with the Twitter contest? Have you guys been tweeting? Yes? Well, I'm going to see if there's a message from headquarters, because I think it's about time to see who our winner is. Okay, just bear with me a second. Let's see. I have a tweet from Jadfoo, Jadfoo. Are you present? Well, you're our winner. So, tweeted a great twit pic of one of the slides. Well, would you please come up and collect your prize? Or, in fact, we'll do it afterwards, because we're a bit short on time. And the runner-up was Brady Krupa, who tweeted "Size matters" with a picture of you at Meteor Crater. So you come see me afterwards. You're going to get a special prize too. That's fantastic. My latest project is Meteorite Hunters Unlimited. It's a new television series. It reunites my colleague Steve Arnold for Meteorite Men and myself. And instead of just doing kind of a little demo reel, they call them sizzles in the industry, which you're meant to do kind of a 5-minute thing, and you take it round to the networks and see if anybody's interested. We're kind of naughty, so we just filmed our own whole pilot episode. And of course, now that I'm one of the producers, we get to do all the crazy things I always wanted, such as have a secret headquarters, which we built for the show. And I promise you there will be a lot of heroic posing in this show. That's also very important if you're making adventure television. And if you'd like to learn more, please follow us on Twitter. Meteorite Hunters Unlimited will start airing soon. I am also, come alongside, Chair. Thank you. I am the president of the world's largest meteorite company, Aerolite Meteorites. And I want to make one point very strongly, and that is there's nothing wrong with the commercial collection or sale of meteorites. Most of my colleagues in the field are in academia. We work extremely closely with academia, and we try and provide a good ethical model of how commerce and science can work together. Expeditions and educational television and science books are expensive, and this company is what funds all of those things, and this company is what allowed me to be here today sharing my passion with you. So thank you, Aerolite, for making this possible. I am a science writer. My first book was about how to find meteorites, and the reason for that really was because after Meteorite Men started airing, I was asked so many times by people, wow, I want to go find meteorites. I want to do what you do. How do I do that? I thought I'd just write a book about it. My memoir is called Rockstar: Adventures of a Meteorite Man, and they're both available on Amazon. And if you're interested in learning more about my work, please connect with me on social media. And again, I want to say I'm a friendly person, especially youngsters in the audience. If you've never held a meteorite in your hand, please come up and see me after the break. You've been a fantastic audience. Thank you so much for your attention. And your participation in Asteroid Day will help save the world. Thank you.